On day 2, President Biden takes further aim at the virus.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Progressive Insurance, offering a way to buy home insurance with their Home Quote Explorer tool. Custom quotes and rates are available online. Learn more at progressive.com or 1-800-PROGRESSIVE. Now that's Progressive. And by C3.ai. C3.ai software enables organizations to use artificial intelligence at enterprise scale, solving previously unsolvable business problems. Learn more at C3.ai.
From Marketplace, I'm Sabri Benishore in for David Brancaccio. On President Biden's first full day at the White House, we're expecting to see another round of executive actions, this time taking aim squarely at the COVID pandemic. The president is expected to implement one tool that the previous administration used sparingly. That is the Defense Production Act. Marketplace's Nova Safo is here with more on that. Morning, Nova.
Good morning.
So the Defense Production Act gives the federal government the power to force private companies to make certain supplies. How is Biden going to use this power?
Yeah, well, the goal is to increase testing capacity and the number of vaccinations being administered. And the first step today is that the president is giving federal agencies the green light to use the Defense Production Act. Now, we've fallen short on vaccinations and testing, and a lot of experts have been pushing the federal government to use the act to increase production of certain supplies that are needed to expand capacity.
Yeah, I mean, we know adequate supplies have been an issue. Here in New York, actually, thousands of vaccination appointments had to be canceled because officials just didn't have the vaccines on hand. So how would using the Defense Production Act make more vaccines available?
Well, it's not just as simple as drug makers manufacturing more vaccines, right? There's a whole supply chain at issue. We need more vials, more freezer units, more syringes. So that's one of the places this can be used. Up and down the supply chain, Sabri, the federal government potentially can get involved to speed things along.
Do we know where the Defense Production Act would be used first?
Yeah, potentially not just vaccine-related stuff, N95 masks, even the paper-like material used to gather samples for rapid tests. So it's a long list, Sabri.
All right, Noah, thank you so much. Banks, in most cases, have been raking it in this past quarter. But Bank of America and Wells Fargo say they are lending less compared to the same time last year, even though interest rates are at near record lows. Marketplace's Justin Ho has more.
A recent survey from the National Federation of Independent Business found that just 3% of small businesses are interested in taking on new debt.
Smaller organizations are strained.
That's Kent Belasco, who runs the commercial banking program at Marquette University. He says many businesses are nervous about borrowing, so they're not buying equipment or a new truck fleet or financing new construction projects.
Those are big investments. Those are growth-oriented. If you don't know what the demand is going to be for certain things going forward, are you going to take that risk?
And with interest rates near record lows, banks aren't earning much from any lending they are doing. Nate Tobick at Complete Bank Data says some banks are being a little more picky about lending.
There's no pressing need that they have to lend right now. They could sit and wait and see what happens.
In the meantime, Tobick says banks that don't have other big sources of revenue are likely to cut costs. That could mean closing branches or laying off staff. I'm Justin Ho for Marketplace.
Checking markets, Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ futures are up in the 2 to 0.5% range, with the Dow future up 33 points. And jobless claims for the week that ended Saturday came to about 900,000. That's 900,000 people who filed for unemployment. That is actually 65,000 fewer than the previous week.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Fidelity Wealth Management, where a dedicated Fidelity advisor can give clients a fresh perspective on their full financial picture. Learn more at fidelity.com/wealth. Investment minimums apply. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC. And by GEP, helping transform supply chains with strategy, services, and software, including GEP Smart and GEP Next, AI-based digital procurement and supply chain platforms.
President Biden is inheriting a grim economic landscape. The pandemic has taken 400,000 American lives and 10 million jobs. We wanted to know how many businesses have been lost this far into the pandemic. So we have Constance Hunter, chief economist at KPMG, to help us understand what's happening. Good morning.
So business exit is a lagged indicator. It comes out almost 2 years after. So we have data from 2018. We do not have current data. However, when we look at Yelp data, it seems that there are about 78,000 businesses that closed. Now, this compares to 300,000 businesses, which closed during the global financial crisis. And we need to juxtapose that against business formations, which have been surprisingly strong. So if we look at just high propensity business formations, we've had about 200,000 during 2020.
How does that square with the fact that we're down 10 million jobs, though?
This is a phenomenon that's happening all around the developed world. We see a fall in the number of jobs, but we also see, because of fiscal assistance, because of closures, we see a very high savings rate. And of course, we have low interest rates. And the shock of the pandemic really has caused a different need for different goods and services than existed prior to the pandemic. And so we think that that is a large factor.
But I just wonder if the business destruction that has occurred has been concentrated, and if that means something for how we think about offering help to the economy.
So, yeah, I think a couple of things. One, I think from this Yelp data, which is unofficial data, it seems it has been concentrated in leisure and hospitality. And we know, for example, that there are 4 million fewer leisure and hospitality workers than prior to the pandemic. And so this is an industry that even those firms that are still open are not operating by and large at maximum capacity. So we know that that's an area of the economy that is still struggling and that needs assistance.
Looking at the economy that President Biden is inheriting, do you think additional stimulus will be needed?
Well, that really depends on the pandemic. If we are able to dramatically increase the number of vaccinations, that would go a very long way to getting us back on track. And of course, the idea here is we want the virus to be eradicated as quickly as possible, because the longer it persists, the longer the suffering occurs and the greater fiscal stimulus is required.
Constance Hunter, Chief Economist at KPMG, thank you so much.
Thank you, Sabri.
I'm Sabri Ben-Achour with the Marketplace Morning Report. From APM, American Public Media.